Welcome to Strange Encounters, the channel that delves into the weird and wonderful world of unexplained phenomena. In today's episode, we'll be exploring the concept of a glitch in the matrix, those moments when reality seems to warp and twist in unexpected ways, leaving us questioning everything we thought we knew about the world. From inexplicable coincidences to impossible synchronicities, we've scoured the web to bring you the most mind-bending stories of people's encounters with these strange and elusive glitches. So buckle up and get ready for a journey into the unknown as we take a closer look at these eerie and unsettling experiences. And if you're as fascinated by the unexplainable as we are, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a comment down below with your own strange encounters. We'd love to hear them. A Dimensional Slip by Endless Loops of Why. Way back in 2004, I was living with a friend in England. We used to go walking through the fields in the countryside. One time, we were out walking and we spotted what looked like a mini forest toward the edge of a field. Curious, we went over to it. As we approached, we noticed a little pathway or gap in the trees, so we followed it. As we went along through the trees, the pathway became like an archway, as if the trees were growing into the perfect shape over the path. This went on for ages, maybe half an hour. Eventually we saw daylight at the end, so we powered on along and made it out of the exit into the open air. Outside looked like the normal countryside, except for a strange settlement before us. It looked like the buildings were made out of junk. Well, wooden junk, that is. There were also tiny people, 4 or 5 feet tall everywhere, wearing rags. They were all muddy and unkempt. They stared at my friend and I like we were aliens from another world. There wasn't a road, just a muddy path through the center of the buildings. No power lines, nothing modern at all. While standing there, I suddenly had this feeling that I had to leave. I said to my friend that we had better go, so we went back the way we came. It was a pity this happened in 2004, since we didn't have the technology on hand that you'd have today to take photos and videos of everything. Anyway, we went back and discussed it a few times in the intervening months. Eventually, I couldn't stand it anymore and convinced my friend we had to go back with a digital camera. When we returned, we found the trees and the entrance, but when we followed the path, it lasted only a few minutes and emerged into another field. A normal field. We walked the perimeter of the trees and it turned out to be just a little square of undeveloped, unused land in the middle of 4 fields. No archway and no village. It goes without saying that there was no point in taking photos. I'm convinced to this day that if we hadn't left when we did, we'd still be there. Wherever or whenever there is, we would have become another missing persons report. I Lived a Different Life by Temp Too Soon. During my last semester at college, I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note, he was 325 pounds, I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground, I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady. She made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years, we got married, and almost immediately we had a daughter. I had a great job, and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, my wife became pregnant again, and we had a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work, and I doted on him and my daughter. One day, while sitting on the couch, I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like it was inverted. It was still in 3D, but just wrong. I was transfixed. I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating. I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first. Soon I stopped that too, as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at that lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time, my cognizance was breaking up and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids, none of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted, but it took up my entire perspective, and all I could see was red. Then I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises, and I became aware of pain, a whole ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and I opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk, surrounded by people that I didn't know. Many of them were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point, a police officer picked me up and half dragged, half walked me across the sidewalk and the grass and threw me face down into the back of the police car. I was still very confused. I was taken to the hospital by the officer because he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive. I was given CT scans and some other tests. After that, I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane, as I would cry myself to sleep, hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old, and I can never hear what he says. I'm Right Here by Deleted User. I was at a friend's place back in 2008 when we were all teenagers. We had a cool shed that we would hang out in every weekend. It had 4 sets of bunk beds, tables, a fireplace, TV, a fridge. Basically, it had everything we needed, the whole lot. One night, we were all hanging out there when I decided I needed a restroom break. I walked out the front door of the shed and started to walk to the right when I stopped. Now, let me explain the layout here. As you walk out of the shed, the house is to the left, and to the right is where we all parked our cars. Further out from there, it's just empty trees and fields. It was now dark outside, with the lights from the house illuminating the space between the house and our cars, but trailing off just past the cars. As I took a step to the right, intending to go behind the cars to relieve myself, I saw my friend's older brother standing there. I watched him for a good 5 to 10 seconds as he stood there, facing into the darkness. He then proceeded to walk behind a couple of trees and a car before he disappeared. Confused, I walked back into the shed and asked my friend what his brother was doing by the cars. The conversation went as follows. Me: "Hey man, what's your brother doing by the cars?" Him: "What do you mean?" Me: "He just walked off behind the cars." Brother: "I'm right here." I looked over, and there his brother was, sitting down on one of the chairs with a drink. He was wearing the exact same clothes as I saw him in, and the only way to get into the shed was through the door that I was standing in the way of. To this day, I have no idea how it happened. I'm guessing I was just seeing things, but the fact that I watched him walk around for a good 10 seconds has always puzzled me. I've never had anything else like that happen. Little Toy Monkey by Maddox. My dad had this little toy monkey that he used to call his favorite child and tease me and my siblings with. It was not in a bad way, but it was really frustrating to us kids, and we spent hours trying to steal it from him. One day, we finally got the toy monkey and threw it into the garbage after drawing on it and mangling it for a bit. My dad laughed and searched for it for a bit, but basically figured we had thrown it out and gave up after a week or so. A few years later, when I was about 17, I'm walking down the street in Toronto where I was visiting friends, and I see this little orange object on the side of the road. When I walk over to it, I pick it up and see that it was the exact same monkey. It even had the black Sharpie lines on it from when we drew all over it. I honestly cannot even come up with the chances of that happening, especially considering our garbage is sent to a local dump and is nowhere near Toronto. I ended up taking it with me, and I burned it with fire, just so I knew it wouldn't come back again. Two of us teleported, and now things are off. By Alarmed Fan 4932. I apologize if this doesn't make sense, but I'm freaked out, and I have no idea how to explain this. My coworker and I were driving back from dinner to the place we were staying at. We had driven this route a handful of times and were very familiar with the surrounding area. It was a 7-minute drive from the restaurant to where we were staying. We left the restaurant and had a straight drive for about 2 miles, no turns, until we had to take a right turn into the parking area of the property we were staying at. As we approached the hotel, the tall "Courtyard by Marriott" sign was visible, as was the building. We were a block away from the turn, and then we just suddenly weren't. We were all of a sudden driving on a highway, about to take the exit on the right. It was immediately apparent, and I said to my coworker, "Wait, something is wrong here." And he replied, "Yeah, what the heck just happened? We were just about to turn into the parking area." I told him to pull over, and I looked up on maps where we were. The map showed we were 20 minutes away, in the opposite way we had come from. It was physically impossible. The time on the clock was still the same as it was when we were next to the hotel. I don't understand, and neither does he. And he doesn't want to tell anyone because it sounds so crazy. We teleported 20 minutes away. It was the single most disorientating feeling I have ever experienced. But now, after that, I feel like everyone in my life has just changed. Everyone feels so distant. I can't shake the feeling that something is still really very off. My whole life is different, and no one believes me. By PM Me Birthday Dogs. This Wednesday, on the way to work, I went to my usual gas station. I go there every day, 5 days a week. I go in, and everything is different. All new drink stations have been installed, and the food area is completely redone. None of this was different Tuesday morning, and I couldn't believe that they'd redone a gas station in one night. I then go outside and see that 2 gas pumps are completely gone, and there are mulch bags stacked taking up all the space. None of this was there the day before. I then leave and head to work, and somehow turn on the wrong street and get lost. I've been driving these neighborhoods for months, and suddenly I'm lost trying to find my job. I get to work a few minutes later, and I'm panicking. I know it's silly, but I've always feared changing timelines. My fiance and I even have a timeline safe word. I call him and I ask him, and he has no idea what I'm talking about. We just talked about it at the end of January, and we've had that safe word established for a while. I've even woken him up at night and asked him after having a nightmare, and he's known the word. But now he has no idea what I'm talking about. Then the girls start coming downstairs in the addictions group home where I work, and one girl keeps saying how confused she is and how nothing makes sense today. Later in the day, another kept saying all she wanted to do was cry, and she had no idea why. Then, while running errands, I go down the same street I always do, and suddenly there are 4 houses gone and a grove of trees planted where the houses were. I've never seen them before, and then I really started freaking. They are next to a building my family owned for the last 20 years. I know that whole neighborhood. The final straw was calling my mom today. She said my sister was going out tonight with her friend Jenna. I've known Jenna since 2003. I asked how much longer until Jenna has her baby. My mom goes silent, and asks what the heck I'm talking about. She says, Jenna's never been pregnant. I look her up online and nothing. I asked my sister just a half an hour ago and she laughs in my face and says Jenna is infertile and will never have kids. I literally remember the day my sister told me Jenna was pregnant. She asked me to guess who, and Jenna was my third guess. What is happening to my life? My partner just glitched, and it's freaking us out. By Potato Pixie 90210. Let me start this story by saying there have always been creepy things happening around me, and I have several stories about my dad's old house, which my siblings and I all agree is haunted. I also had my dead best friend visit me twice, which was nice. So this evening, my partner and I were upstairs sorting laundry when our daughter called us downstairs as dinner was ready. I was heading down the stairs and my partner was right behind me, literally 2 steps behind me. He did his usual thing of tickling the back of my neck as we walked. The bottom of our stairs is wooden, so you can hear when somebody steps onto it from the carpeted stairs. When we got to the bottom, my feet hit the floor as usual. I turned to ask him something, and he wasn't there. He wasn't there. I completely froze for a second and looked up the stairs, and there he was, standing on the top step, pale and shaking. I asked him what had just happened, and he kept saying, I don't know. I was behind you, and before I hit the bottom, the next step took me back upstairs. We are very freaked out. We didn't say anything to our daughter about this since she's already leery of stuff like this. I'm trying to get the courage to leave my laptop recording audio overnight because there's definitely something weird happening. A while after this happened, I was talking to my partner about the jump while we were cleaning our bedroom. As soon as he made a joke about spooks a-poppin', our bedroom door and bathroom door slammed shut, one after the other. I think I'm going to chalk that one up to our bedroom window being open a crack. I don't want to think of the alternatives. Welcome to a special segment of Strange Encounters we call Famous Encounters. In this part of the show, we explore some of the most famous encounters people have had with aliens, UFOs, cryptids, ghosts, and other entities. These stories have been passed down through the ages and have become ingrained in our popular culture. But how much truth is there to these legends? We're about to find out. Buckle up, because some of these stories are going to shock and alarm you. But that's what we're all about on Strange Encounters, exploring the unexplainable and the mysterious. In this segment, we're going to take a deep dive into the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. This notorious entity has been terrifying people since the Victorian era. Described as a tall, thin figure with glowing eyes and the ability to leap impossibly high, Spring-Heeled Jack has been blamed for all sorts of strange occurrences, from attacks on women to scaring people into fits of terror. So get ready to be transported to another world as we delve into the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack is a well-known folklore tale that originated in England during the Victorian era. Spring-Heeled Jack is described as a mysterious figure who terrorized the streets of London and other cities in the 1800s. He is said to have possessed a demonic appearance. It was also said that he was able to jump to incredible heights and to breathe fire. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack has been the subject of numerous books, films, and other forms of media, and this legend has become a cultural icon. According to Wikipedia, Spring-Heeled Jack was described by people who claim to have seen him as having a terrifying and frightful and diabolical appearance, with clawed hands and eyes that resembled red balls of fire. One report claimed that beneath a black cloak, he wore a helmet and a tight-fitting white garment like an oilskin. Many stories also mention a devil-like aspect. Others said he was tall and thin, with the appearance of a gentleman. Several reports mention that he could breathe out blue and white flames, and that he wore sharp metallic claws at his fingertips. At least 2 people claimed that he was able to speak comprehensible English. The first reported sighting of Spring-Heeled Jack occurred in 1837 in London. A young girl claimed to have been attacked by a strange, agile figure who had the ability to jump over walls and run at incredible speeds. Over the years, there were many similar reports of attacks by a figure matching Jack's description. One of the most famous incidents involving Spring-Heeled Jack occurred in 1838, when he allegedly attacked a group of soldiers in the town of Aldershot. The soldiers claimed that Jack had leaped over a 9-foot wall and attacked them with sharp claws before escaping into the night. In February 1838, Spring-Heeled Jack was reported to have attacked a servant girl named Jane Alsop. Jack knocked on her door and claimed to be a police officer. He claimed that the police had caught Spring-Heeled Jack and asked Jane to fetch a light. When she returned with a candle, he threw off his large cloak and, I quote here, presented a most hideous and frightful appearance. He breathed blue flames into her face and began to scratch her with his claws. She screamed for help and ran toward the house, where he caught her on the steps and continued to assault her. One of her sisters came to the rescue and the assailant fled. This incident received widespread media attention and helped to fuel the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack. Over the years, there have been many theories about the true identity of Spring-Heeled Jack. Some have suggested that he was a wealthy man who enjoyed playing pranks on unsuspecting victims. Others have speculated that he was an alien or some type of supernatural being. Despite numerous investigations, the true identity of Spring-Heeled Jack has never been discovered. The legend of Spring-Heeled Jack is a fascinating tale that has captured the imaginations of people for over a century. Despite being a terrifying figure, he has become a cultural icon and has been featured in many works of literature and media. His true identity may never be known, but his legend will continue to inspire and intrigue people for generations to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mysterious and unsettling world of glitches in the Matrix. We hope that these stories have left you with a sense of wonder and curiosity about the strange and inexplicable things that can happen in our world. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more strange encounters. And don't forget to leave a comment down below with your thoughts and your own experiences with glitches in the Matrix. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us privately, you can email us at verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. We're always on the lookout for new and fascinating stories to explore. Once again, thank you for your support, and we can't wait to see you again on the next episode of Strange Encounters.